Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Alena Dmuchovska, a project manager of Creative Europe Desk Ukraine. Creative Europe in general is a program which aims to support the European audiovisual, cultural, and creative sector, and we're about to start our discussion. For everybody in this discussion panel, and I believe everyone watching, let's admit that we're lucky. We don't live in the world our mothers and grandmothers lived in, where career choices for women was so limited. Most of us already were born in the world where we have basic civil rights, and amazingly, we still have the world where some women don't have them. But all that aside, we still have a problem, and this is a real problem. Women don't really make to the top in any industry in the world. Today, we would like to talk more about the culture and creative industries in Europe in general, and the role of women there. While preparing for today's discussion, I was diving into many pieces of research to understand this problem. According to the study Gender Gaps in the Cultural and Creative Industries, done by a Dutch research company, Pantea, there is a variation across sectors, with some sectors being more classically masculine and other sectors being more open to higher numbers of women. Despite this, at the executive levels in Europe, there still tend to be more men. Through the distribution is approximately 60% of men and 40% of women. Some culture and creative sectors are really masculine, and especially in leadership and decision-making positions. The architecture and design, for instance, are prime examples. Men are more strongly represented, fit more into the classical architect image, and are generally approached to lead the design on large and important buildings. Women, in turn, tend to work more in support roles and engage in softer areas in the field, such as interior design. To dive more into this topic and learn how to improve the leadership position of women in the creative industries all over Europe, we have invited 4 guests today who will be able to share their points of view on this situation and share their own stories. I'd like to start with a brief introduction of our guests. So let's just go around and start with Mia, if I can. Could you please tell us a little bit more about where you're from and what is the project you're working on at the moment? Please unmute yourself.
Always. Within a year.
Modern world.
Sorry. Hi, I am Mia Ternström and I am situated in Stockholm, Sweden. And I am here representing Key Change, which is an EU-funded project within the music industry that aims to strengthen women and gender minorities to become successful international artists and also our future leaders in the music industry. And Key Change does this via a development program, a career development program, which includes giving opportunities to network. We are also creating our own huge network, giving opportunities at music conferences and also a mentorship program. And another very vital aspect of the Key Change program or the Key Change movement is the Key Change Pledge. Which invites festivals and organizations to work actively together with us for gender balance in every aspect of the industry, from festival lineup, boards in organizations, technicians in your venue, and so on. You can take the pledge and say, yes, we will have a gender balanced whatever in so and so. And the main goal of Key Change is, of course, to not exist anymore, to have a gender balanced industry and an industry that represents and the overall underrepresented at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. We will go back to the key change results and also the goal a little bit later. But now I would like to invite Elsa also to introduce yourself and tell a little bit more about your background in culture and creative industries.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me. I do two things mainly. One is I'm a project manager of the European Commission project Voices of Culture, which is a structured dialogue between the cultural sector in Europe and the European Commission on different topics. And the topics are chosen from what is called the Council's Work Plan for Culture. So the European Council gets together the culture ministers from all over the EU countries, get together, decide on topics that are to be discussed over the next 2 or 3 years. And from that list, this platform given by the European Commission Voices of Culture platform, the sector chooses topics that they wish to discuss. And one of the topics was gender equality last year, and out of that came this report. The other thing I do is I'm serving on the panel of experts for the selection of European capitals of culture. And also in that area, it's very vital to keep focusing on gender equality as an important part of those cultural programs. So back to Voices of Culture and what comes out of a discussion on, for instance, gender equality. That was a specific topic focused on that, but also we've had a discussion very recently on culture and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, again, gender equality comes into that. And then the next topic that we will discuss is working conditions, very relevant to, again, also talk about gender equality. And a very strong part of the next discussion is, of course, the COVID effects on working conditions for the people working in as cultural professionals. And again, women are at a loss when it comes to the effects of COVID-19. Then in the far future, for instance, digitalization is an issue. And again, we can start speculating on artificial intelligence, who feeds the computers, et cetera, but I'll stop for now.
Thank you very much. And also, we have two Tatianas today, and I would like to start with Tatiana Chernetska, because she is invited here especially to talk about their idea and their project, which was also supported by Creative Europe. So Tatiana, can you please tell us a little bit more about the concept and how the project is happening at the moment?
Hello, everybody. My name is Tatiana Chernetska, and I am a project manager of the Gender Museum Ukraine and Center of Gender Culture. Our museum was created 10 years ago, and it is the only gender museum on post-Soviet space. And the only museum in Ukraine, and for many years it was some kind of initiatives, and due to the support of the European Union in 2018 it was established as a public space, and we are proud of this. And thanks to Tatiana Shulga, she is our curator of this project, which is almost finished. And in the framework of Creative Europe, we developed a new project. It's Both Cultures Journey Throughout European History. So the idea of this project is to make visible of women experience, because you know that birth and delivery, it's the issues which are not spoken about. It's a topic we can discuss only on our kitchens, that's it. And we decided it's not only our project. We developed this project with 3 other countries. It is Spain, Italy, and Austria. And the leading country is Spain, and they invited us because they knew about our museum, and we represent these post-Soviet countries in this project. So the project has several dimensions. The first of all, it's exhibition about birth, and the idea is the exhibition was developed in Austria, and other countries contributed from their side, and the exhibition was presented in Hittisau in July of the last year, and now this year in May we will open the exhibition in Kharkiv in Ukraine, and it will be adopted and to our local history and our local issues. So besides these exhibitions, there will be several other activities. For example, Birth Cafe campaign is very popular now in Germany and also in Europe, to give an opportunity. The idea is to give an opportunity to women to talk about their birth experiences, delivery experience. So, and also another part, it's about creating a co-workshop for artists concerning these topics. So we try to make women experience visible in different sites. Thank you.
Please invite us definitely when you have any activities, announcements. We're really curious about this topic because this is pretty a new topic on Ukrainian media landscape, let's say, and we're really curious about outcomes which you will have in this project. And last but not least, Tatiana Shulga, could you please also tell us a little bit more about your experience in culture and creative industries?
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet all the project managers introduced by now. Basically, I'm the one who is ensuring the bureaucratic side of this work in the delegation of the European Union. I'm a sector manager. I deal with the following sectors: gender, culture, national minorities. I also deal with youth and sports. Our work is a bit less entertaining and a bit less practical and factual in a way, because indeed we are more on the side of contracts, ensuring procedures, and so on. However, the project cycle includes a very important part, which is the identification of the areas and specific sectors where the assistance is the most needed, and also the ways to address the challenges existing, in our case in Ukraine, methods to be used for this end, target audiences, and basically the forms of implementation for this assistance, whether this would be a service project with technical consultants to be invited to help with legislation, whether this will be a call for proposals, or some other numerous ways the EU uses in its technical assistance. And in this domain, I'm quite lucky that my sectors have both gender and culture and creative industries, because I think that nowadays it's one of the most challenging and interesting sphere of potential attribution of efforts with the most promising results in the future. Culture and creative industries in Ukraine seem to be the domain of women. When you have a meeting, have a Zoom meeting these days or a conference, quite easily you can guess that 70, 80, 90% of the participants will be women. You will see them sitting in the conference hall, interacting, making presentation. But of course, you will have a couple of keynote speakers representing the governments. And guess what? The chances that 70, 80% of these speakers are men are quite high. Ukraine is this interesting domain where in principle you have the rights there and you have the legislation in place and it keeps developing. You see this or that legislative act, like now we have the first reading of anti-discriminatory measures in the advertising, for instance. We have gender focal points in all the ministries. You have active NGOs, and still you have the statistics, which I'm sure we will hear later today, which is very disappointing. And I think this statistic starts in the kindergarten, where last week my little girl heard that probably a teacher is a good choice of profession because it's easier for the girl. And this is also paired with the TV stereotypes, with chats in all the numerous Vibers and what's on, where yesterday we had this storm of congratulations on what is this tenderness and spring and love and women being the firekeepers and our flowers. So it's in a way it's two different universes existing in parallel in Ukraine, and the task of this active part being present in the conference somehow to make these universes, if not one, but at least closer to each other. And I hope that my work in a way helps in this rather challenging area. That's more or less, in a poetic way, what we are doing here at work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. You already raised quite a lot of questions we will discuss today. And before we dive into issues and problems, I would like to dive into, let's say, numbers and refer to Else, because you already showed the, how do you call it, the white paper, the documents done by Voices of Culture. So this is basically a summary of the working group which was discussing gender equality in creative industries in Europe overall. What are your possibly top 3 takeaways from that research, let's say, or possibly some strange outcomes for you, which you found while doing it?
Thank you. So first of all, the group of 35 selected participants from an open call right across Europe got together in Prague to discuss this topic, and they decided on focusing on 4 different topics: gender stereotypes, sexual violence, systemic discrimination, and labor market, leadership positions and things. Now, what I found really interesting, not that it's anything new, but what I carry with me as something important to remember is that there is a systemic discrimination right across the board. It's in our DNA, so to speak. And we all either consciously, subconsciously let it break through to widen the gap, or at least to not narrow the gap. So just to give an example, you know, we still stick little girls in pink and boys we let play with science technological toys. When I was a child, I'm much older than any of you. I come from the country of Lego bricks. Well, back in those days when I was born, you just had one kind of Lego bricks, and they were for boys and girls, and there was no difference. Nowadays, Lego bricks are divided into the ones for girls and the ones for boys. So on that point, we've gone back in time. So that was one thing that I told myself, don't forget that. The other thing is to remember that gender balance is a non-binary construct. So to not always just talk about men, women, but you know, it's non-binary. And also to remember the intersectionality. So some people are discriminated over and over, like in different layers. So they're discriminated because they're women and Black and disabled and maybe something else. And as was just pointed out a little while ago, gender equality is a societal issue. So here we are, a bunch of women talking about gender equality. Well, we're not going to get gender equality before the other half also comes on board to discuss along with us. We need to discuss this together. So, you know, if we want to have sustainable societies in the future, we cannot just be half, more or less half the gender discussing it. And then the last thing that I discovered that shocked me a little bit, the European Institute for Gender Equality that you may all know about has predicted that at the current rate in the EU, it's going to take at least 60 years more to reach gender equality. So we have a bit to do.
Thank you very much. Just like a brief remark, we will put the link to your documents in the comments of this video, so everybody would be able to dive even more into the details and some information which was collected in this discussion. Thank you very much for these takeaways, and I would like to refer to Mia now, because your project Key Change is evolving over the years, and indeed I believe you started working with gender equality at the first place, but now the topics you're working with are much bigger and wider. Do you see the positive effect on your work and the perception of all these topics of equalities in general?
Yeah, I agree, of course, with Else on like our project is funded to target gender inequality, but we also absolutely must take intersectionality into account, of course. So that is also what we have been doing, and we are also trying to focus on women and gender minorities. So those who are underrepresented in the industry, and we try to say gender minorities to include everyone who feels underrepresented, since there are so many gender definitions. The first phase of Key Change was back in 2017 to 2019, and Key Change was actually initiated by 2 men and 1 woman. So there you have the men working for us. To say that we can see the results of that is a bit, since it has not gone so long time. The idea of this project is to see change in maybe 10 or 15 years when we have strengthened these women who are on the edge of having an international career. Those who are selected for this program are export ready, either artists or what we call innovators, that is professionals within the music industry. And we are strengthening them, and hopefully we will see the results of these targets in like 10 years or something like that. And the second phase of Key Change was launched in 2019, and we had it, yes, you know, a year ago. We were gathering here in Stockholm, a whole network meetup, and boom, something came along that unfortunately destroyed the idea of bringing 74 people across 12 countries to be in front of 500 people that had gathered. So that was, so we tried to do something else, and to see I can say that from our perspective now is that we can see that create a network has been a huge thing for those who were selected. But the biggest thing I think for Key Change is our fantastic partners who have had this issue on the agenda throughout the COVID crisis. As you also mentioned, Else, COVID has struck harder against women and gender minorities, and that is throughout every aspect of the world, I'd say. And of course on women and gender minorities in the music industry as well. So I can see that they are strengthened because we keep on pushing this topic on the agenda. And in the end, we will have 222 participants who will have gone through this program, which I actually hope will make a huge difference. But I think that the most difference is the Key Change Pledge. And today, we started out with 7 signatories back in 2017. Today, we have 450 and we are growing. And this is a huge thing in the music industry, that they are pledging to work actively with us to a gender balanced music industry, actually. So I can say that that is the only number that I actually can say I see a change coming.
That is already really huge, because all these people you involve, they really work as multipliers to the whole situation and really help you all together to change the situation. A lot of people also say that equality goes hand in hand with the great examples, and you just have to have role models and examples that this is okay to have variety of people in the music industry, on the stage, behind the scenes, everywhere. And I believe Key Change project works really great with your project ambassadors. Just to name a few, this is Shirley Manson from world famous band Garbage. Also Tony Visconti, who was a sound engineer and sound producer of David Bowie. Also, I just seen that Aurora, this Norwegian pop sensation, is also supporting your project. How are you developing this ambassador movement, and how it helps you to meet your to reach your goals and to make it work in this like all European level?
Yeah, it's a super idea to have the ambassadors included in our project, right? Most of our ambassadors have actually already worked with these issues. So it's not us approaching them saying, you must do this work, because they are already doing it. And some of them have actually approached us and how can we help? And we're like, wow, yes, please help us. Let's do this together, because it's a win-win situation, of course. I mean, Kate Nash, she's doing amazing things in the States. I mean, here in Sweden, we have an ambassador called Linnea. She has been working on these issues for 10 years, and she's very well known in Sweden for being a representative of these issues. So that was also the idea of the ambassadors, to be locally famous and to spread the movement of Key Change in the local context. It's a win-win.
Do you feel that they help you to attract more attention to the problem? Do you have more like media attention?
Yes, absolutely, they do. Both with their own, I mean, of course, people who follows, for example, Aurora, are already aware that this is what she already has been saying in the beginning, so it's nothing new for her fans. But in her to join forces with Key Change, then she can also, I mean, she's an artist and she's doing her artistic work, but we can do all the more like gathering statistics, participating in panels, you know, doing all this other work. But she can provide with insights towards our movement and to the more, can I say, boring parts of this things. But also I was, there was a person who is becoming an ambassador who approached us, and she was like, oh my gosh, can I please be a part of this movement, because you are giving me firearms within my country because I am so alone in this, no one is joining me, and your statistics and all these things and this whole thing that you're creating is giving me the proof that I need, because sometimes it's just an individual's, as you know, the whole Me Too movement showed that the individual are experiencing something. It's like, is this only me? It must be me. And then we're like, no, it's the structure. Here you go. Here's the research. Go ahead, please change it. So yeah, we are a big family, and we would love to have a Ukraine ambassador as well, because we're looking for ambassadors in every country, all countries that are not within the EU project. So please with suggestions.
Okay, we will make a list of some suggestions from our side for sure. And you see, this situation just proves that diversity helps to achieve a goal even more effectively. You have to have the media person who is well known. You have to have people who are working on the boring stuff, but okay, statistics and policy and the communication with policymakers again means a lot. And this is how the whole situation changes in the whole Europe. And now I would like to move to Tatiana Chernetska because I'm like super curious about your project, and it works with the topic of birth and maternity in 4 different countries. All our countries are pretty like diverse. Have you mentioned already some differences or even similarities between all of us in terms of women leadership opportunities in culture and creative industries? And another provocative question. As you can see from the experience of yours and your partners, can maternity be an obstacle for success, as it takes a few professional active years away from a woman?
Lona, thank you for your questions. Yes, really, we work in 4 countries, but to be honest, I didn't conduct any research on the topic of women leaderships in cultural and creative industries, and I would focus on these maternity and birth issues because this is really an obstacle, especially in Ukraine. If we compare different countries, for example, these 4 countries, so we can see that the four countries provide something like 16 till 20 weeks with paid maternity leaves, and that's it. But the situation in Ukraine, as for me, is much more worse because due to several factors. The first one is due to our post-Soviet situation, and I mean post-Soviet consciousness, because in public opinion, it's in some kind the Soviet gender order declared the gender equality, but in reality it wasn't. It was only some words and not real equality. And from another side, after the Soviet Union collapse, all this backlash movement was very active in Ukraine, and especially, you know, it was also due to economic crisis, because when it is economic crisis, these slogans that women should be at home and they should be on the kitchen, it's very popular. And today's research, today's survey demonstrates that in Ukraine, the public opinion is very, very patriarchal. For example, some new survey, it was by a rating group, it was conducted in January and February. 67% 87% of Ukrainians said that women's own the main women's role to be a mother and to deliver a birth. So we can see from one side, the states try to support women, so-called support. For example, we have very long, this 3-year maternity leave. It's very long, and many research demonstrates that it's really have very negative impact at work. You cannot do anything. It's very difficult to come back to your work. And from another side, women have so-called self-discriminating stereotypes. They don't feel themselves like equal partners, maybe, or equal employees, and they work for lower salaries, for example, and they don't take very ambitious projects because they don't believe in themselves. So unfortunately in Ukraine, really the maternity is a real challenge for women, and we can take it into considerations.
And at this point, I would also like to address Tatiana Shulhan, because I believe you can also share your personal experience about maternity leave. And just before we do that, another piece of information which I found is from the US, but still I was pretty shocked with the results. So basically, the research says that the research was done among married senior managers in international corporations working in creative industries. So basically, 2/3 of married men had children, and only 1/3 of married women had children among all the people who answered this questionnaire. So Tatiana, do you agree that women have harder choices between professional success and personal fulfillment based on your experience? Because I just remember that we met, you were on the maternity leave, how it worked with you and how we can improve the situation in general.
Oh, basically, yes, we can indeed talk about the American experience, but it's a very specific situation for the country which is considered to be economically successful, and it is economically successful. Luckily, in most of the European countries, the situation is better, and the maternity leaves. Not only maternity, but parental leaves are generally better. So indeed, there the situation is more than difficult. Ukrainian situation, again, as already mentioned, is interesting because there are two worlds. In one world, you're expected to take your 3 years leave, get some symbolic amount of money as a support, and then as your work is not so important, you can get to it in 3 years with the same skills and get your less paid and less important job back. Your second choice is to get back as soon as you can. For some women, I know this is 2 weeks, 2 months, 4 months, depending on how long the employer or their business can really survive without them. And then every day you should prove that you can do it, that your maternity is not an obstacle, that you are this superwoman, being able to do everything, breastfeed, do conferences, do reports in the nights, start new projects, report, combine it with some social life, and so on. So the expectations are basically very high, and then we go to the issue of mental health. And then we go to the issue of severe burnout. Then we go to the issue of childhood trauma, because these mothers are rather tired, and these mothers are expected also to be great mothers, and they simply cannot be human. My situation is unique because I work with a great employer, which is not business, and the same time not the budgetary sphere of Ukraine. So I had my 5 months of proper maternity leave, and then I still could afford a nanny and feel a bit less guilty on the matter. Still, it's a challenge which I fully felt during the first months of pandemics, when we all started teleworking along with the children. So here again, getting back to report and getting back to our creative industries and culture industries. Here we have all array of situations. Some women are indeed at budgetary jobs and even losing some skills and money. They still can take and afford this 3 years leave, or a year and a half, depending on how they would like to take it, or 2 years. But then we have self-employed, and these self-employed is a substantial number of women. Some of them are informally employed, so they work in the grey economy, they don't pay taxes, and they don't receive any assistance. Then we have people working on contractual basis, even if they do have some legal jobs, but these are still very much dependent on this contract and income they generate. And again, their choice is very difficult. It's about the resources, money versus time they can provide for their kids. And I liked a lot the ideas of support among the female artists, which is mentioned there. There are other initiatives being rather helpful, but we still talk about the culture area where, in general, the income level is not that high. So, in the years to come, we will still have this choice faced by Ukrainian women, whether to pretend to be a superwoman. And in a way, it's a huge step forward, because I wouldn't actually take anyone to the leadership position without this bootcamp experience of surviving the time management of maternity or paternity of the first years, when you really have every 15 minutes calculated. All the resources known to you and kept in your head, and so on. All the efforts and all the power of yours being able to be concentrated, to postpone your procrastination to some better times, maybe next year, and so on. But then we shouldn't expect it from everyone, because not everyone is actually able and should be able to do that. And those unable to do that for physical reasons, for not being able to find help and so on, they are in the deep deprivation and deep discrimination situation in Ukraine, and we should name it this, because this is what we face here today, unfortunately.
And I would like to come back also to your question about specifically Ukraine, but it's not only specifically about Ukraine, but about Eastern Partnership countries. And we talked a lot about this research, which was done by British Council Ukraine and also PPV Knowledge Networks, which is the research company in Ukraine. So basically it says that in Georgia, 54% of women are engaged in the cultural sector. And 48% of women in Ukraine are also engaged in the creative sector. So basically, the situation is rather stable, but the gap is between the variety of people and the leadership positions. How do you think we can improve the situation to encourage those ladies, those women who would be able to go for a leadership position, who interested in that, they're working in order to do that, but there are some obstacles which don't really let them do it. Can we start with Tatiana Shulga?
Well, yes, back to me. I think there is no silver bullet, and there are long-term things, starting with education and educators, reproducing the myth about the women capacity and women job which they should seek. I do think that quotas applied moderately is a good thing for Ukrainian society, despite I know that public debate is rather hostile about it. I do think that introducing quotas in various steering committees, boards, and so on, probably as a temporary measure can help. I know that such a little thing as anonymized CVs help a lot. And this simple practice can be introduced at the company level, and this can drastically change the situation, and as well as proper company-wide statistics, best practices on promotions, on pay situation, and so on. So basically, even these rather simple steps, if promoted and presented to the companies, can improve the situation. I will stop here. I'm sure that there are so many other ideas to propose.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And I would like also to invite Tatiana Chernetska for the word, because you've developed this gender museum in Ukraine, and you've been active for quite a lot of years. Can you share whether it was hard or possibly even easy for you as a project manager, the team of yours with the female representatives? What were the problems and how you managed to overcome them to make your ideal project happen?
Thank you. Very interesting questions. Yeah, it's really hard to promote gender equality in Ukraine, especially to develop a gender museum, because you know that we have a lot of different donors and they don't want to support museums. So we need to do something, some, for example, educational programs, some wider programs, and to put museum inside to keep going with it. And one more issue is a problem. Elsa mentioned it, that we very often we discuss gender issues only among women, and it's not proper and it's not effective. We really need to attract a lot of men, and maybe HeForShe, this is a good example of this, in our center several months ago, we also organized such kind of information campaign, Real Man is You. We try to change a little bit gender stereotype concerning men and women, and especially men, because all this so-called toxic masculinity is not modern now, so we need to change something. As for our project, I mean, as a problem as project manager, it's the very usual problem. I mean, lack of financial, especially even your Creative Europe project, it takes co-financing, so we need to look for some resources and also need to find very good ambassadors. I like these ideas, and we have one singers in Ukraine who supported our campaign. He is man and he did it free of charge, so I will recommend to Mia this.
Sorry, the experience sharing is already in the action. Thank you very much, Tatiana, for that. And I would like also to move to Mia, because we have raised the question of education and possibly mentorship. And I believe you also did the mentorship exercises or events for women from all over Europe. Where are you in this area at the moment, and how did you build the program to make it effective?
We are in collaboration with She Said So, and if you're not familiar with that fantastic organization, you must update yourself. And they have helped us to develop this mentorship program that we had in 2020. Unfortunately, since we have prolonged our project, we are a bit lack of funding in 2021. So we are looking into possibilities for doing the mentorship program this year as well. And in the first phase, we did a peer-to-peer mentoring program. So those who were selected for Key Change in 2017 and up to 2019 mentored each other. And now we are looking into maybe finding mentors outside of our network. And within She Said So, they have, I mean, that is one of the main things that they do. They are, I'd say, experts in this. So they find mentors who do this for free, as ambassadors do. And we did a survey on our participants, and through COVID, the mentorship program was very successful, because some of the participants, of course, as in whole culture area, were thinking of leaving the industry and trying. Of course, they actually had to, because they needed to find other jobs in order to provide for themselves. But to still have this network of other working or artists and people in the industry, and also the mentor or the mentee had provided them with an opportunity to stay connected to the music industry, and like, okay, this is still my identity, even though I have to work here, I am still an artist, or I'm still whatever. So that was very, very important for their sense of their sense of self throughout the COVID situation. And the other take on mentorship is, of course, as we mentioned, role models, and to see that other people have the same situation as yourself, and they might be more forward in their career, and providing with tips and insights, and how did you go through this. And since the music business is quite small, it's hard to find those people if you're not provided with a mentor, and also to find a person who is doing like exactly what you do, but maybe in another country. That gives a lot of new ideas to them as well. So I don't know if that was the answer to your question.
Yeah, it was interesting. And also I watched some of the streams by She Said So, and what I particularly liked about your mutual project is that they are also trying to debunk the myths a little bit, and they try to invite all those women who are behind the scenes, and they're doing like man job. But there is no like female or male jobs. Even if you are a sound engineer, a tour manager, you still can be able to do it. And this is not a problem. With the power of technology, you can do basically everything. And just to show in these examples that it's okay to do this job. And if you are professional enough and you like it, just go for it, because other people are already doing that for many years already, and this is very encouraging.
There's a wonderful organization called Women in Live Music that are women doing technicians. You should look that up too. That they are wonderful.
Oh, interesting. Thank you very much. As we have to wrap up our discussion a little bit, I would like to go with the more like a broader question for all of you. And I would like to start with Elsa. What are your basically 3 recommendations on how to increase the amount of women and different types of minorities on the leadership positions in cultural and creative industries in Europe in general? And possibly, what does the leadership mean for you? Can you please unmute yourself?
First and foremost, we need policy changes. There was also been the discussion, should we have numbers on employment, or should we go for the best qualified? Those times have gone. In my view, we need quotas. That's the only way forward. And, you know, throughout history, men have been employed not because they're the best choice, but because they're men. So that would be one. And the other, I echo again, Mia and Tatiana, we need more role models, but we also need to realize what each and every one of us can do ourselves. We tend to go a long way away to try to identify what needs doing out there. Oh, we need policy changes, we need this, that, and the other, but what can I do? And let me give you an example of what can I do. Not me, but there is a celebrity in Denmark in October last year who went on to the stage of an award ceremony. And then she just declared how she had been severely sexually abused, and I will spare you the details, it's quite horrific. She just said that, and you could hear a needle fall in the auditorium. She was employed by the Danish radio TV station, and it just set off an avalanche in Denmark. And it went to firings all over the place, big notch guys, celebrities, politicians, people in academia, in the health sector. The mayor of Copenhagen had to step back. The leader of a party had to step back, etc., etc. Because of one woman celebrity taking the courage and stepping forward to saying that men had exercised power over her because she was a woman. So role models, and don't let us underestimate what each and every one of us can do. We must have men on board. We cannot sit around discussing this by ourselves. And actually, a very good way to get men to listen is to tell them that there is a bottom line. There is actually money in making sure that women take leadership positions. So there's a financial. So if they don't understand any other reasoning, maybe they'll understand that it's a financial advantage, especially the stakeholders or shareholders in commercial sector. So we need to be better at getting out there and voicing ourselves in a strong way. We need to be lobbyists, politicians, and we need to start with ourselves and our own family. How do we actually behave in our own families? How do we behave at work? So there's a lot that can be done.
Thank you very much. And on this note, I would like to address Tatiana Shulga. What are your recommendations how to change the situation on the policy level in Ukraine in general? Possibly some encouraging words.
First of all, thank you for this speech, because indeed it's all about starting with ourselves. And about the courage to step up and to say something. It was really important and encouraging to hear. It's not that easy in Ukraine. We had this similar to Me Too campaign in Ukrainian sports, which ended up with barely nothing. We had a number of other cases with similar background, and rather often there is no reaction at the political level. We have politicians caught talking off mic and saying horrible sexist things, and they just continue. So basic legislation and people starting with themselves and having courage and investing their time into enforcing this legislation, like discrimination in the advertising, which will probably work on the basis of complaints. This is something we can do together, supporting the existing upcoming legislation with our own personal activism. I think this is something which is not a policy level, but still an extremely doable and important thing. At the policy level, I would continue working with private business because indeed a lot of things are still to be explained, and a lot of things can be explained by figures and numbers and percentage and language which is really understandable for business. It also comes to the basic notions of gender equality, like the gender neutrality for kids products. It's not about depriving a kid of the gender identity, but it's rather of having a choice of not wearing pink or wearing pink. I think that a lot of things still can be done at the governmental level with budgetary institutions, and these are indeed about collecting and publishing data. If a network of institutions or a governmental sector publishes and is obliged to collect data on the women leadership and publish it yearly and discuss it yearly with their respective ministries, I think that they would pay more attention. I hope so. So these are basic things, and they don't cost much, but still can be put in place rather fast. These are the obvious things which are somehow not here in Ukraine yet.
Thank you very much. And also, Tatiana Chernetska, from the point of view of civil society organizations, what are your recommendations how to improve the situation and attract more ladies to the leadership position to meet this equality?
The first recommendation is was mentioned today. It's quotas. I support quotas. There are a lot of discussion about quotas, that it's not very good, it's not a good competition, but it's positive discrimination, and these steps are needed at this stage. The second one is some special program for girls and for women to develop their leadership skills and to develop their self-confidence. And maybe the third one is some information campaign concerning these parental duties. I mean that to bring children, it's not only women's duties, it's also duties of their fathers. So in this case, women will be more free of these obligations and more free. I mean, in their minds, they will be feel themselves like a person who can really do something else besides their homework and bringing children. So these 3 steps.
Thank you very much. And what about Mia? I believe a friend of mine lives in Stockholm, and you have this like equal parental duty. So basically, men should take a leave to be with their children. It's obligatory on the work. And this is how you can meet all these equality issues.
In Sweden, absolutely. And I have 2 kids and have been a touring artist for 20 years and have a freelance husband as well. And when I was on tour, mostly in the States, people always came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you have kids, but who's taking care of the kids?" And I'm like, "I'm their father." And they were like, "What?" Yeah, so yes, he has absolutely stepped in, but I totally agree with all of you that quota is the only way, because otherwise the process will be too slow. And that argument that, we need the best person for the job. Yeah, but then we need to define what is the best person for the job, and who are you to define that? Because you are via your bias set out to choose someone who is like yourself. And I actually listened to the panel yesterday, a key change panel from the EBU. On International Women's Day, and one of the panelists mentioned that research in music has shown that you tend to listen to music and judge its quality by the music that you already know, and therefore you will pick the music that you already know and also say that this is a good quality music. And I say that is a good thing, because it's the same, of course, when you choose your work force. So I'd say quota, absolutely. Design on gender balance and hire thereafter. You could sign the key change pledge and then hold yourself accountable and report the numbers, make yourself aware of your own progress. We have signatories within too. We have signatories within Key Change that has signed the pledge, and they're like, okay, we don't know how to measure this, because we have no women who applies for the job in this board. And some of them have taken this issue and said, okay, well, then we put an ultimatum. Either there's no person on this place, or a woman, which is a good thing to do, because people, then women will put themselves forward and like, oh, okay, but I'm actually better than no one. So that is a good thing. So ultimatum is my second thing. And then I would say, strengthen your gender minority workforce, like challenge them and give them opportunities, which is actually, I think that my own boss have done this. He has given me a lot of opportunities, put me in panels and put me as a moderator, and like, oh, I can do this. And he's like, well, it's your job, you need to do it. And he believes in me. And I can see that throughout the Key Change project, that very many men, no, all the men in the Key Change project who are in leading positions are giving the women and gender minorities persons who work within our project these opportunities. And I just love that, because then if you're a woman and you're, what you said, Tiziana, what was it you call it, when you don't put yourself forward as a woman, then that issue is targeted by the male bosses. So that would be my tips.
Thank you very much. A lot of encouraging words and a lot of great examples. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up this discussion, but we will have much more discussions coming this HeForShe Arts week. So basically, we have this 1 week to discuss the issues, to be vocal, to try to find the solutions together. And I believe from all of your words, we have seen that we can make an improvement only together and only if we are visible. So you have to start with yourself, help your colleagues, be vocal about any problems you can have. Other people will come to help you in any case, and to be courageous, possibly to try to go for it, because this is what takes you in creative industries. You have a lot of freedom. Why not to use it? And people will just support you if you're professional enough, courageous enough, and you do your job. Everything is possible. And starting from this discussion, we would be really happy to encourage other like people who are watching this discussion, and also in our team to be active and to just go for their dreams, because everything is possible. Thank you very much for this great discussion and insights from your work, from civil society organization, also from policy making part of work. Else, both Tatiana, Mia, thank you very much. Wish you a great continuation of the week, and I really hope that we are staying in touch, exchange the information, and help each other on this international level, because it's really great to have all your thoughts which are common to our thoughts, and I believe all together we can make a great change. Thank you very much for that, and have a great week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stay in touch, then bye. We're finishing our discussion.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.